3, 2, 1.
Hello, America. Hello, world. To the two trophy dads. Back in the day, NASCAR was big time. You know, the last thing I remember.
It's still big time. Just it hit its peak there.
Let me explain here just a second. See if you feel me right here.
The
last thing that I remember anything about NASCAR is when they did the iRacing type thing.
iRock or iRacing?
Whatever it was. The virtual racing.
Okay, that's iRacing. That's when I called you and said, dude,
yeah,
you get on this. Yeah.
And there was the incident with Kyle Larson.
Oh, yeah.
And Bubba Wallace.
Well, Bubba...
He said...
It wasn't between the two.
No, I just meant Kyle Larson said a word.
I want to be clear. I don't want you to think... I don't want people thinking that Kyle said this about Bubba.
No, it was
what happened to Bubba. Bubba quit the race. It's a game. iRacing is a game. It's a simulated... It's a virtual racing thing. I have a setup. I like to do that.
Yeah.
But Bubba, when they were doing... This is when COVID hit. They weren't allowed to race. And so they were doing... had the drivers get on their...
It was really cool.
Yeah, their virtual cars... and drive. And so Bubba, in one of his, he got wrecked and he rage quit. All right, that's what they call it. He was upset. And he said, "I'm out of here."
Yep.
So he just quit. Didn't finish the race. He lost sponsorship in real life because of that, because they were sponsoring him on the virtual race. So he lost his sponsorship, and then Kyle was racing a totally
different race.
It was not a NASCAR event. But there's about 1 million people watching this virtual race he was in, and he referred to his spotter by the N-word.
Yeah.
And he not only lost his sponsor,
he lost everything.
He lost his ride, and he got kicked out of NASCAR for a year. And then he comes back last year, is the most dominant driver. He's now hired on. It actually worked out good for him because he got hired by probably the best team in NASCAR, as bad as I hate to say it, Rick Hendrick Chevrolets. And, won 9 or 10 races last year and won the championship. Great comeback for him.
Sure
and
was.
The bad thing is he's half Japanese, I believe.
Asian American, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that NASCAR, when they went through the 2000s, they made everything so cookie cutter that it was just like, sort of blasé?
Yeah.
And people was like, why would I want to sit and watch,
it's like watching the same
Kentucky,
race.
They've lost. And there was no... And they're trying to institute things coming back. The LA Coliseum thing was pretty cool. But I think sometimes you might be sowing your oats, you're feeling your oats too good, and you're just like, well, we don't need to change anything. I think that's maybe where they went to.
When NASCAR was hitting on all 8 cylinders, you had guys like, of course, Dale Earnhardt, Rusty Wallace, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, who was my favorite. You had the Labonte brothers. These were great characters. Darrell Waltrip,
Rusty Wallace,
and their personalities carried over, and they were kind of like people could still relate to them as blue collar. These are guys that came up, built their own cars. They were just kind of salt of the earth kind of guys.
They just didn't show up and drive the car.
Yeah. And now what? And then of course NASCAR started seeking. It was basically a southeastern sport, and then they wanted to get into the big markets in New York, California. They wanted to break it, and I understand. From a financial standpoint, you understand that.
Las Vegas, right?
Vegas, California, Texas, getting into that western market, and so they go out there, they build these tracks, and they build them. They're very similar. Most tracks are built, the mile and a half, kind of look like Charlotte Motor Speedway. They're fast. But they generally get spread out. They're kind of boring racing. But NASCAR's always about putting on a good show. That's what they want. But what hurt NASCAR is when Dale Earnhardt was killed in the 2001 Daytona, when he lost his life, it just started going downhill. A lot of your drivers, like I just mentioned, Dale Jarrett being another one too, they didn't drive the same after that anymore because the greatest driver of their generation just got killed in a wreck.
Yes.
So I think they're staring their mortality in the face. And so they're like, why am I out here risking my life when I don't have to? I got enough money.
Yep.
So you see the racing, I think they calm down. Then you start, and then they retire. They retire a little earlier. And, of course, you had Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon brought a lot of new life into the sport.
Yep.
And so then you get these new guys that come in, and you don't really know, they're younger. You don't really know their stories. You didn't see them growing up on the dirt tracks or the Midwest late models, and then you had Jimmy Johnson,
Yep.
who's probably
Dominated.
He seems like a super great guy.
He does.
But I was never a fan because he won every stinking thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wins 5 championships in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, that just got boring.
Yep.
It did, because it's like, well, it's going to be Jimmy Johnson again. And it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had the best team, best
And didn't
money.
it make them ultimately change the point system in a way?
Well, some say it was because of Matt Kenseth that they went to the chase format.
Because he never won a race, right?
No. NASCAR has never had a champion. The Cup Series has never had a champion that did not win a race.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one race, but Matt only won. He won 1 or 2 races, but it was just so consistent.
Yeah.
Just, he was getting the top 5s and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So NASCAR wanted to breathe. They tried to breathe some excitement into it. So they started making it where you got to win to get into the playoff. They trying to make it like stick and ball sports, to where you have playoffs and things of that nature. To where you didn't crown. They didn't want to crown a champion with 3 races to go because they had such a big lead. So they're trying to make it. And so, but the thing about Jimmy Johnson is, no matter what kind of concept they came up with, he won.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they were just a dominant team. And pretty much in NASCAR, honestly, if you've got the money, you can get the wins, because you got to have the technology.
Yep.
So now the whole idea, so it did get kind of boring,
Mm-hmm.
and they went to the same tracks. They didn't bring in new tracks or anything like that. And then they really brought in a few like Kentucky, which Kentucky's a cookie cutter track. It looks like Charlotte.
And the traffic situation with Kentucky sure didn't help it.
The first year. That was just 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
The first year, it never been a problem since. I went in 2019. Traffic was not a problem. Not a problem whatsoever. Awesome track. You could see every single thing going on at the track. It was a good track. Had a great time. Had a ball up there, camping up there. But, of course, Kentucky now has lost their race.
Yep.
They moved it down to Nashville, trying to get into that market, and so, but now that I think what's kind of breathing some new life into the sport is this new car.
Folks, if you're looking for a high-quality pre-owned vehicle and service with a smile,
then you need to check out Mark Motors at 11770 North U.S. Highway 25E in Gray, Kentucky, 40734. Phone number, area code 606-528-0069.
Facebook page, markmotors-inc.com. That's MARKMOTORS-INC.com.
Open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. NASCAR, they are trying. They've had the dirt race at Bristol. First time they've raced on dirt in 70 years last year, and my guy won that. Of course, like you said, they converted the L.A. Coliseum into a racetrack. Now they're tearing it all back up. I don't know.
Couldn't have been they may have not gained anything as far as financial, but they're trying to bring viewers in.
Yeah. And they've done something different. I mean, something totally different.
Yep.
And, of course, my guy won that too. And so, Joey Logano. And then, they've created the Roval at Charlotte, which is kind of like a half race, the big course with a road course built into it. Most road courses are like 2 miles long.
Yeah.
And from a fan's perspective, you can't see the whole track. You see bits and pieces of it. Even on television, they've got to have 30 different cameras to see all around this thing. Whereas at the Roval, you can sit in the stands and see the entire track and the inside. So that made it cool. They changed it up. They've added several new road courses and things. They're trying.
Yep.
And I'm glad they are. They needed to.
Yep.
But I think the thing is relating to the drivers. I think that's the biggest thing, because most of NASCAR's fans are just salt of the earth people.
Yep.
They're not making $1 million salaries. Most of them are paycheck to paycheck. And so, and even if they go to the race or watch it from home, they want to know that guy that's driving that car is like them.
Yep.
And when you lose that, you've lost that connection. You've lost that with football.
Yep.
You've lost it with basketball, baseball. It's very hard to get, and then just racing in general, it's so expensive to race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so expensive. And so to get into the sport, you got to be uber wealthy. And so that's hurting them. They've got to figure out a way at the grassroots level to create some kind of fanfare to where you can get into this sport and make it affordable. And that's what this new car is supposed to be about. That they have now, instead of each team being able to build their chassis, they have to purchase their chassis from one supplier. All the body pieces are made by suppliers that they come in. They're not allowed to mess with the cars. And so really, it's kind of like the IROC in a way, almost, I kind of think. They're now limited to how many cars they can have. because you might be a small team, just a new team. You might only be able to afford to have 2 cars.
Right.
Then you're going up against the Hendricks, the Penske's, the Joe Gibbs, who might have 50 cars. Oh my God, you know, and they've got 500 people working in their shop. You've got 3.
Yep.
It's hard to compete. So, as far as costs, they were spending, Alan, at one point, air guns. You know, the air guns that they would take the lug nuts off with.
Yep.
They were paying $1 million a piece for those things because they were getting them. So Gibbs was one that was doing it, that brought it on, because they had so many RPMs they could spin the lug nuts off faster.
Yep.
So I mean, they're spending $1 million just to buy a tool.
Insane.
Yeah. So it just got, so that's what a lot of changes they're doing, trying to make it more affordable. And we're seeing a lot of new owners. But now, these aren't just ordinary owners.
Right.
Michael Jordan's a billionaire.
Right.
Okay.
Now, is he a better owner in NASCAR than he was in basketball?
Well, I don't know.
Or is he enough to even know?
Now, he's a cash cow. He brings in the money. He's got McDonald's on the side of Bubba. And nothing against Bubba. Bubba's a great guy. I like old Bubba. But Bubba's a mid-pack race car driver.
Yeah.
But he is on the right team. Okay. And Bubba is bringing in the sponsorship.
Yep.
And Bubba is the only African-American driver in NASCAR. And so, a lot of corporations are hopping on board because they want to be associated with it. And that's fine. No, good job for, it's a great break for Bubba.
Yep.
And I'd like to see old Bubba do okay. I got nothing personally against him, but I don't think he's an elite driver. But Michael Jordan is also teamed.
Yep.
It's not just him. He also has a partner, Denny Hamlin, who drives the number 11 FedEx car for Joe Gibbs. Denny knows racing. So Jordan at least is smart enough to say, okay, I'm a team owner. I don't know everything, the ins and outs of all this stuff.
Right.
Get a guy that's in the car who knows. So, and then they hired Kurt Busch and got a second car now. And I think that will really help Bubba. Kurt's a great driver. He's a former champion, and he can help Bubba. And so that'll be good. But also you have Brad Daugherty. Remember?
Brad Daugherty.
Daugherty. Yeah. Daugherty's a rock.
Daugherty's his twin brother.
Yeah. Brad Daugherty, he's got the
Daugherty.
He's got the JTG, something like that, racing the Kroger car. That's
Kroger's down here.
Yeah, and so he's been in NASCAR for years now, and so and so I would like to used to you could build a car, go to Daytona, and race your way in. Can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's taken away from it again. And I wish there was a way to get back to it, but you're seeing a rise now, especially with like Flow Sports on streaming, that you can watch like your late models.
Yeah.
And
those are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's got a huge boom right now.
Yeah, I like to drive one of those.
And NASCAR is going to have to get off their elite status and try to connect back down to the grassroots again.
You mentioned Kurt Busch. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the wild story about him and his wife? And she was like a spy or something?
No, it wasn't his wife.
It wasn't his wife. Okay.
It was his girlfriend, and she wasn't a spy.
Did you remember, though, when all that came out? It was like the most unbelievable story ever.
She accused him of domestic abuse.
Okay.
And then come to find out, he broke up with her.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, she had I don't know if it's Wounded Warriors or something like that to help wounded veterans. And come to find out, she was like the CEO, and she was funneling money from them. She was embezzling money, so she winds up going to prison. She was like a psycho.
So how did I get that she was a spy? Wasn't that mentioned?
It possibly could have been.
No, it was crazy.
It was weird, man. And Kurt Busch he was a turd.
Yeah.
He was a punk.
He was.
But
I was glad to see his brother be better than him sometimes.
Well, Kyle's a turd too.
He is.
Kyle's a good driver. They're both great drivers, but Kurt now
on the turd status.
Yeah, turd status. One's a little stinker than the other, but they both matured. They've both grown up, and Kurt really has changed. I think he's worked very, very hard to change his public image, and he's one of the few guys. Anytime you want to do, and maybe we should call Kurt. But a lot of these, they're like he's one of the first ones to say, "Hey, if you need an interview, I'm here. I'll be glad to do it."
Really?
Yeah. And so I don't know if he would for us, but
what if like one of the greatest names ever, Dick Trickle? If we could call him, that dude.
You got a phone line to heaven because he's dead.
Yeah.
So
just think about that though. If you could have called one of those guys.
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah. Well, used to. I know people that's ate breakfast and stuff with them. That they'd be at the racetrack and they'd be down at one of this popular. There might be a tent where they serving breakfast, and there'd be 3 or 4 of the drivers sitting right there eating with you, talking to you.
Yeah.
That don't happen in other sports, but it does in NASCAR occasionally.
Until next time, America. Play the music now.
Mark Motors.
Are we still recording?
Yes.
Yes. MarkMotorsIncorporated.com.